Today we're going to be talking about the residential bid sheet. What a bid sheet is basically a way for an electrician to come up with an estimate for what a job should cost so that he can forward that to the potential customer, give him an idea of what all materials he's going to need for a job. Generally as an electrician, when you're doing a lot of new build residential construction, you're not going to be figuring out, okay, I'm going to pull this much wire to this run and this much wire to this run and this much wire to this run. How much is all that going to cost me? We're going to figure out an average of what it costs, over time with experience. They're figuring out, what's the average cost that it costs me to put in a receptacle, to put in a switch, to put in a light fixture. And all the things that are important to that are built into that bid price. You're charging so much for every receptacle and so much for every switch, and some of them you're not going to make as much money on, some of them you're going to make more money on, but the average comes out so that it's going to pay for your labor, it's going to pay for your time, your cost of materials, it's going to pay for your it's going to pay for your profit. All those things are built in to this bid sheet. And when you build one that is, sized properly, it can be, you can adjust the bid price per item to account for, market fluctuations and cost of materials. So it's just something that every electrician has to do once they are out working on their own, being able to figure out how to charge for, how to bid a job. Now, as apprentice electricians and new electricians coming in, is that something that's going to be super important for you guys at the very beginning? No, not necessarily, but it is important that you understand, where the person you're working for is coming from. Like how much are you costing, your employer when you're sitting around on a bucket not doing anything, because he's not getting paid for that time either, right? He has bid the job per piece that gets installed. And so if you're not working on installing pieces or providing some function while you're there, like you're costing money and you're not making money. And if you want to get promoted, if you want to have the opportunity to get better and better positions within the company that you're working for, you want to be aware of your own value, but also the value that you can provide for your company. And so this is one way that you can look at that if you kind of understand how bid sheets work. And so we're gonna go over that today. Now there's a ton of different, you can ready pick one from the internet. You can download a bid sheet. There's several websites that'll do a lot of that stuff for you. We've got an example here where you put in your ceiling outlets and your conventional outlets, your switch outlets, for each room. You would come in somewhere here to put in your bid price there, and then total it up. That's one way of doing it. Another way is just to use like an Excel. You can make an Excel spreadsheet file, which is what we have for our exam. Is you'll have a Excel spreadsheet file or something similar to that you're going to be filling in. And so I'm gonna do the garage for you guys. This is going to be this is the stuff that's going to be on your exam. We're going to do the garage together, right here together. It'll be done for you on your exam. We'll start looking at a couple of other rooms, some things you'll need to look out for. But when you get ready for the test, you'll fill out the rest of it, right? And so generally we got to figure out what all kinds of items we're going to be counting, right? We're going to want to count switches. It's more trouble to put in a three-way switch than it is a regular switch, and so we're going to charge more for a three-way switch. We're going to charge for receptacles. We're going to have a bid price for GFCI receptacles, because there's an added cost in that receptacle itself. Plus, there is there can be additional headache in installing them. We have a spot for special outlets. Now in this particular print, there's a lot of different kinds of special outlets. We're going to charge the same price for all special outlets. That's not something necessarily you might do as when you were bidding this for real, because some specialty outlets are more special than others. Some of them are going to cost a lot more than others, and so it may be difficult to get an average price on specialty outlets because, like I said, some of them can be more special than others. I've got a spot for lights, cable TV, phone. I've got, it says switch there. That should be switch with a pilot light, because that switch would have an additional cost, right? A switch that contains a pilot light, instead of being 97 cents, that's gonna be a $10 light switch, right? We're gonna have additional cost on these. We want to make sure that we're passing those costs on. We don't want to eat those costs as the electrician, right? So we're gonna go through. We're gonna start at the top here. We're looking at the garage. We're looking for regular switches. I have one regular switch right here, and then that one has a 3-way. That one has a pilot light. The other two have 3-ways, right? So I have one regular switch in my garage. 3-way switches. If I look at my 3-way switches, I've got 1, 2, 3 3-way switches. So I'm going to write down my 3-way switches. 4-way switches. I have 1 4-way switch. Write down my 1 4-way switch. Receptacles. I can go around the room. I can see I have 0 regular receptacles. All in my garage, I'm required to have GFCI receptacles. So there are 0 regular receptacles. We can go to count the GFCIs. I have 1. I have 2. I have a 3rd here, but it's listed as a specialty outlet, and so we're going to count it as a specialty outlet. It's a GFCI outlet that's mounted in the ceiling. It's going to be for our garage door opener, but I want to keep things consistent for while we're counting, and so it is marked as a specialty outlet, so we will count it when we count the specialty outlets. So that gives us 4 GFCIs, and then we're going to count our specialty outlets. So there was the 1 for the GFCI, and I have 1 here that says it's optional for the EV. Now when we're doing this bid sheet, I'm going to count anything that says optional. I want to count it. I don't want to bid this job, get the job, install everything, not install things that were optional because I tried to be the cheapest bid, and then have a homeowner that's not happy with the job that was done because they were expecting these optional things, and I didn't clearly communicate to them like, hey, I got the cheapest bid, but I got the cheapest bid because I didn't do for you all the optional things that you said you wanted, right? And so we're gonna give a bid price with the optional things, and if it comes in a little high, then you have that room to negotiate with the client to be able to say, well look, we can do it cheaper, but we're not going to be able to do that electric vehicle charger in the garage. I mean, I see you don't even have an electric vehicle right now. Maybe that's something we can hold off and we can install later. If you just down the road you decide to get you an electric vehicle, if it's listed as optional, for our test, we're going to make sure that we go ahead and count it. Now we're going to look at our lights. We go through here. I have 1, 2, 3. It's real important that you guys know your symbols, right? If you don't know your symbols yet, you're going to have a hard time with this exam because you got to know your symbols. You notice that we talked about some of the alternates to some of the symbols. None of these light fixtures have the little dashes on them, the little sun rays coming out of them. They're all just circles, right? And so those are still light fixtures. There are 3 of them. Cable TV, there are 0 cable TV slots in this room. There are 0 phone slots in this room. I do see 1. Let's not mark that out. Let's mark it with a highlighter. I have 1 switch with a pilot light, and so that switch with the pilot light, mark that right here. And then heat smoke detectors, I have 1 heat detector here in my garage. Now you'll notice I have some lights out here to the front. I have a weatherproof GFCI out here on the outside. I have a back porch light here. I'm not counting any. I'm only counting the things in the garage for the garage. So we're going to be a separate slot for things that are outside. So make sure you're not counting things twice. We don't want to miss anything, but at the same time, we don't want to count anything more than once, because we count things more than once. That's going to be, it's going to put your bid higher than the other people that are bidding this job. And while that, if you count something twice and you only have to install it once, that's, you're making a little extra money there. You may not get the job if you have done that. So I'm going to scroll over here, and we're going to, this is an inset of, if we look at our big print here, right, we just did the garage, right? Now we're going to take a look at the laundry rear hall powder room area, right? We broke those 3 rooms into one section of the print, right? Because they were a little small to do individually. You could do them individually, right? If you've got a spreadsheet that's big enough, or a sheet of paper that's big enough, right? You can do each room individually if that makes it easier for you. For the purposes of the test, you'll need to add them all. You'll need to add the things up that are the rear hall, the powder room, and the laundry room, because that's how we broke it down for the exam, right? So, single pole switch, right? I'm going to go through and I'm going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a 3-way. That's a 3-way. That's a 3-way. So I have 4 single pole switches, right? And then I'm going to look at 3-way switches. I have 1, 2, 3 of those. I'm going to mark that down. 3 of those. 4-way switches. I don't have any 4-way switches, so I don't have anything to mark down for that. I'll mark down a 0 there. Receptacles. I have 1 regular receptacle. And then if you'll notice, these other receptacles have an AG beside them, right? So I'm going to mark my 1 for my 1 regular receptacle, and then my other receptacles, which are 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of those are GFCI receptacles. That AG stands for arc fault and ground fault. So those are receptacles that are protected by both, right? Those breakers are more expensive than regular breakers. So whether it's marked as ground fault, or marked as arc fault, or marked as both, right? So we're going to have some that'll just have, you're going to have some that'll just have an A there. Any of those 3, we're going to put here in the GFCI slot, right? I'm going to get that fixed on the test before I put the test up. That'll be GFCI or FCI, or both. Now, it's arc fault and ground fault. We're not going to count that one twice. We're only going to count it 1 time. But whether it's arc fault, ground fault, or both, it will get counted in this column. And I've got 4 of those. And then next thing on our list, special outlets. I have an outlet for looks like for my clothes dryer. So that'd be 1 there. I have, that's it. Now I now have lights. I have 1 light here. I have 1 light here. Now I have 2 things attached to these other switches, right here and right here. Those are fans. I didn't put a spot for fans on the exam, so we don't want to miss things. But if you don't have a slot for it, we're gonna leave that off. That's something you'd want to be careful for if you're doing this, in the field. You'd want to make sure that you're counting those fans. It's similar to installing a light. We could count it for a light fixture. If you counted it for a light fixture here, I wouldn't count you wrong. I'll make a note to go in and check that on the exam. But if you leave them off, I'm not going to count you wrong either, right? Because they are not ceiling lights; they're ceiling fans. So we'll slide past those. I wrote down 2. I only looked at the 2 lights that were in the powder room and the laundry room. We also have 2 lights in the hallway. So that is actually going to be a 4, right? Be careful when if you stack some rooms together, not to miss any of them, right? We have cable TV. I have 1 cable TV slot. I have 1 telephone slot. So that'd be 1 for each of those. I don't have any switches with pilot lights. I do have, looks like 1 smoke detector and 1 heat detector. So that will be a 2 on our heat detector, smoke detector slot. And then if I'm looking to see if there's anything else that I missed, right? We do have, that's going to be a chime for a doorbell. I believe the test does say that we're not counting for the doorbell or the doorbell chimes. So we'll be able to leave that one blank, right? And you're just going to move through the entire house like that, right? So then you're going to move into the kitchen, right? You're going to move into the kitchen. We have one of these arc faults that we talked about. We have it, so that's a receptacle with an arc fault. That's not going to get counted as a regular receptacle. That's an arc fault, ground fault on each of those, in that one. So all of the receptacles in here, except for this one microwave outlet, are going to either be protected by arc fault or ground fault, right? I have 1, 2, 3, it's like 4 specialty outlets in here. One for the dishwasher, one for the waste disposal, one for the oven, and one for the stove. Now, I didn't put the second set of prints on here. There's a set of prints that tells me all of this, right? Like that, this little letter that is sitting beside each of these specialty outlets. It's not necessarily important for the bid sheet, but it will help us for placing things, right? Like I know that this is for a microwave because earlier today I looked at the other print. This symbol here is telling me that there's a picture in the print of viewing this from like a in-person view, and you can see that there is a island. There is a microwave above the island, and so that's how I know that we have a microwave outlet there. We'll go over that more when we talk about just blueprint reading in general. I'll have a day where we look at that. I got a couple of lights here. I have a heat detector. We have a telephone and a TV, right? So we're just going through the house, finding all these things. You're counting them. I suggest marking them off, right? If you can't mark off on your computer while you're taking the test, if you print you a copy of it out, right, so that you're able to mark them off, that may help you. I've got the living room. I believe the living room, we've got it set up so that that's its own section. If not, it may be the entry, study, living room together. Yes, the living room, entry, and study are all together, right? So this will be a pretty big little section here. Probably should have broken that up into living room and then the entry, study together, but the test is already made, so we're gonna you'll have to count this whole section here. That is the living room, entry, study area. And so, right, this closet is part of the study, so that's going to count. This is where your door's at, so that receptacle right there and that switch are going to count. They're going to come right through here, right? So this linen closet, there's nothing in there, but that linen closet will be part of the hallway, and we're going to come right across here. That's how we're going to break this room up. Right, the AC unit's outside. That's how that room is going to get broken up. So everything that's inside of that is part of the study, entry, living room. Anything outside that, right, this GFC out here, these lights, that's part of the outside. We want to make sure we're this stuff on the front porch. The front porch is stuff that's outside. We want to count that as outside. All the things that are inside, we want to count inside. That track light with 5 lamp holders, right? That counts as one install. That's one light. It has a bunch of lamp holders, but it's one light. I've got a couple of can lights here. Those little R's there, those are going to be recessed lights. I got some 3-way switches, some dimmer switches. The dimmer switch, right? That dimmer switch, it's in the same category as that the pilot light. It should be pilot light or dimmer switches, right? Because we have an added cost in that switch. It's not a 97-cent snap switch. It is a dimmer switch that are going to be between 10 and $30, depending on what kind you're purchasing for the house, and what kind you're purchasing for the house. That would affect your bid, right? So if you're putting dimmer switches in all the rooms, right, and they're wanting a specialty dimmer switch that will hook up to their Alexa to be able to dim and turn up and down the lights from a smartphone, right? If those dimmer switches are $40 a piece, then my bid price per item, right? My bid price for the dimmer switches, pilot lights, right? That bid price is going to be more expensive than the bid price for just a regular knob dimmer switch that's $10 or $11, right? There's going to be, you want to make these things custom to the job that you're doing. The one that we're doing today is generic. We've already given you what the price per item is. It is not realistic prices to today's prices. It was made several years ago, and the cost of materials was much lower then, right? So you're going to just continue your way through the entire house, and then once you've made it through the entire house, there'll be I forgot to put a full sheet of this on here, but you're gonna add up all of your items, right? You've got one. Let's look at the smoke detector. You got one heat smoke detector in the garage, 2 in the powder room. There's one in the kitchen. There's going to be 2 in the living room study area. There's 1 in the master bedroom area. There are 3 in the front bedroom hallway area. And so I'm gonna take all of those, for the whole house. There's none outside. Those are all my sections. And so I'm gonna look and see. I got 1 plus 2 is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have a total of 10 heat smoke detectors, right? And I am charging $65 a piece for heat smoke detectors. So I have a total of $650 in heat smoke detectors. And I'm going to do the same thing with my dimmer switches, right? I go through the whole house. I got, 7 dimmer switches, and I'm charging, $80 a piece for dimmer switches. I'm gonna take my 7 times my $80. I'm gonna total that up, and then once I'm done, I'm gonna take all of these totals that I've got, for all these different things, $1,100 for this, $560 for that, right? I'm gonna total all those things up, and I'm gonna get a grand total of what my bid price is, right? And I'm doing really bad math there, but you get the idea, right? So I'm gonna total the whole thing up, and that will be your grand total that you're gonna put in on the line for the grand total for your exam. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully it was enlightening enough that you guys will be able to get through the exam on that, and you understand what a bid sheet is, why we do them, why it's important that even if you're not going to be doing one you're looking at you guys that if you're just now becoming an apprentice electrician, you got 3 years before you can take your journeyman's exam. You got another 3 or 4 years before you can take your master's exam, right? You're 7 or 8 years away from bidding your own job. You still need to understand the concepts of how it works so that you can be a valuable employee to your workplace. If you've got any questions, send me a message on through Blackboard. I'll get back to you as quick as I can.